So I think one of the stories that affected me the most during the storm was when I was at Barker Cypress and I-10, and there were 6 apartment buildings full of people that needed to get out. And what was so amazing, I'm getting welling up just thinking about it, was the people who came in with their boats, people who bought boats to come in and rescue the people in these apartment buildings. And then along with that, there was the National Guard. There was just this incredible turnout, and all these boats were going into the water, and they were coming back with people, filled with people, who just had the clothes on their back, a bag, and oh my gosh, it's hard not to get emotional. It's really hard not to get emotional. And just the resilience of the people was incredible to see. Incredible to see.
We were inundated with viewer emails, Facebook posts, private messages throughout Harvey, and one of the things that really stuck with me was the response that I was getting from viewers who, behind the scenes, I was able to help. We were exchanging messages back and forth, and people were so desperate for information and for resources, anything really. And we were such a small piece of the puzzle, and to be able to just get a viewer just the slightest, what seemed like just the slightest bit of information, I mean, meant the world to them. And that's the common theme that I was hearing over and over from people, and just the fact that they took the time to acknowledge the fact that I was able to, you know, point them in the right direction, I mean, really stuck with me throughout the coverage of Harvey.
The most compelling part of Harvey for me was not when I was on the anchor desk for hours at a time. It was actually when I went behind the scenes and started taking phone calls. Our phones at Channel 2 were ringing off the hook, and there were a few phone calls that stuck out to me, and one of them was someone telling me that they were with a stage 4 cancer patient who had fluid coming up in their lungs and they needed to get out. I had another phone call of a neighbor calling to say that the person who lived next door to her was going into labor. And then I had another phone call, somebody saying that their dad or relative was going into heart failure. So it was the realization through those phone calls that the city was paralyzed and that there was nothing that anybody could do aside from turn to social media. And so a few of those calls, I tweeted it out and said, hey, I just got a call that this person is here. They're having a baby, apparently going into labor. And I heard back later from someone on Facebook that they were rescued. So that, I mean, that was one of the bright spots. We did everything we could to make sure people got help, but realizing how desperate people were was really, really powerful.
I think that was the hardest thing, is just trying to go through all these messages, and you always wonder, were they rescued? How long were they on that roof? I mean, they were really in some dire situations. So for us, I've just never seen that kind of intimate, heartbreaking contact with viewers, and that's really what, to me, was just, it's hard reading and seeing all that while you're trying to keep your composure on the air and bringing information to the viewers that they need, but hopefully in some way we were able to help out folks.
How you could once get around town, you could no longer get there. The only way you could get around town is staying on the major elevated freeways, but you could never get down into the neighborhoods. And literally we watched a house burn, and a firefighter texted me and said, we're trying to get to that house, and I look over and you can see the smoke, but they couldn't go do their job. And at times it felt like you wanted to get into the neighborhood and help pull those people out, but there was no way to get down there. So I think it was kind of that feeling of helplessness, and you're getting email and texts and messages on social media, and you want to fix everything, and you just can't do it right away.
The most memorable moment of Harvey coverage for me is the day that the photographer and I, Rolando and I, were up in Kingwood area. That, of course, one of those harder hit areas, like under 7 feet of water. And we were able to jump on a boat with some guys and search around. They had been rescuing people for a couple days at that point. Well, in a good way, silver lining, we couldn't find anyone to rescue. We went through apartment complexes, we went through several different neighborhoods. We were following tips that we got on Facebook, and actually we were getting to homes where other people had shown up at the same time because they'd gotten the same tips. So silver lining there, couldn't find anybody, thus I wasn't really on TV that much that day. But one thing that didn't go on TV I had gotten a message from someone saying there is a dog that you could go and save. And this was an elderly couple. One of them was out of town. The other one had to be airlifted out of their house. And when you're airlifted, you can't take your pets. So they had locked them in a second-story room, so high up, food and water, but incredibly worried about them, of course. And at that point, we were on our way back to our drop-off point. The house was on the way. We hadn't been able to find any people, so we had prioritized human life. And then we said, all right, let's try and track down this dog. And we pull up on this house, and I mean, we're basically at the second floor. There's an open window, climb in, find this room, open the door, and there's a dog. And we were able to then, through those Facebook messages, because that's the only way we knew about that dog, the dog wasn't making loud enough noises, I was able to call somebody and say, hey, we've got Duke, and you need to meet me at this location. And so after getting Duke and the boat ride back, and then a National Guard truck, and then waiting for about 10 minutes, we were able to reunite Duke with the family. So we still accomplished something that day. It was a good day.